1 month ago, I set out on a challenge to lose about 30 pounds and achieve my ideal body weight within 6 months. And I will do a monthly check-in right here every single month for 6 months to let you know exactly how it's going, what I'm doing, what I'm changing, what I'm learning, just all of the things so that you can learn right alongside me if you've been in a similar struggle. So today, let's do a 1 month check-in. If you're new here, I'm Jen and I'm delighted to meet you. If you're not new, welcome back and thank you so much for watching. For about 1.5 years, I was strict carnivore, eating nothing basically but meat, eggs, and a little bit of dairy. And I experienced so many health benefits from that. But after about the first year, I started having some issues with my sleep specifically, and I was just sort of slowly and steadily gaining weight. So that led me to changing my diet just a little bit to be still mostly meat, but not 100% pure carnivore. I've been thinking that adding just a little bit of plant foods might help. So that's been going on for a few months. Now I've sort of set this plan for how I want to try to approach losing weight, and this is how the first month went. In a recent video, I shared very specific plans of what I intend to do over the next 6 months, at least what I was going to start out with doing. And I shared exactly why and how I determined that my daily caloric intake should be around 1,600 calories, but I was also going to allow myself to add back exercise calories. So for most days in this last month, I should have been allowed to eat something like 1,700 to 1,900 calories. If you want a refresher, go back and watch that video. Today is actually November 29th, so there's still today and tomorrow left in this month, but today's the day I'm able to sit down and film this video, so that's what you get. But I spent some time creating video footage of my thoughts during this last month and some of my meals, so I'll share a lot of that in this video, but a lot of it will also just be my reflection today of what went right, what went wrong, and what I've learned over the last month. Good morning. It's just day 2. I'm out for a little sunrise walk. This has become one of my favorite parts of every day. I don't always get to do it with the sunrise. If I have to work, I can't. But on the days I don't have to work, I haven't been going to the gym. I've just been going for about a 3-mile walk with sunrise, which seems to really help me just kind of start the day with a calm attitude, and I think helps me sleep at night. I may just be convincing myself of that, but that's the idea. So I'm just really, I'm gonna continue lifting weights at the gym, but probably only about 3 days a week in the mornings before I go to work. So this will be super early days. But on the days I don't have to get up and get to work, I think I'm gonna try to just ease into the day, go for a walk. I get to bring my dog, which is nice, enjoy my coffee, and love my life a little. At that point, I was only 2 days in. I was really getting by on hope and motivation. But what I really noticed in that video is how incredibly puffy I look, which is pretty typical for me when I'm at the top of my weight range and when I've been overeating, especially if it's foods that I shouldn't be eating, which I had been a few days prior to that. Here's my post-walk breakfast. It's 5 eggs with 2 tablespoons of butter and some salt, 3 pieces of bacon, and 1 cup of raw milk. And this is actually over 1,000 calories. So I will keep that in mind for the rest of the day and sort of eat a little bit lighter as the day goes. But this, I think, will be very nourishing. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm pretty hungry, and I don't think it's gonna have a huge effect on my blood sugar, which is good. I know that that is a very big, very fatty breakfast, but I only had 2 meals that day, and my caloric intake was really pretty low. It was less than 1,600 calories. But I noticed now, looking back, that the protein was quite low too. It wasn't even 100 grams. And it's definitely fair to say that my blood sugar was very stable after that breakfast. Today is November 7th. I'm just sitting in my car waiting to take my dog to go to the bathroom and then go inside. But today is the first day that someone on social media, this was specifically on Instagram, has commented that it looks like I'm losing weight. And I have, I believe, lost a few pounds. I'll weigh myself soon, but the sort of the threshold that I'm looking forward to achieving is getting back into the 170s. It's been like 6 months probably since I've been in the 170s, so I'm excited for that. But something else happened on social media today that made me reflect a little bit. So my dinner tonight was about a 9-ounce Wagyu chuck eye steak. And it was really delicious, but it's pretty small. It's barely over a half pound. and I had a 1/4 cup of milk. I know that's weird, but that's how much I had left over from something. So that's what I had, the 1/2 pound, basically just a little over, of the steak, and then the couple swallows of raw milk. And I feel perfectly satisfied. That was about 2 hours ago, and I've run some errands. My stomach is actually full still. I can feel a feeling of satiety. But one of my Instagram friends sent me a video of what he ate, and it was a 1.5 pound porterhouse steak, and it looked so good. And I just caught myself thinking, I could totally eat that 1.5 pound of steak easily. I could even eat it right now after what I already ate. But I don't need that much steak. Clearly, I had 9 ounces and I'm very satisfied. It's just, I don't know, my body doesn't tell me when it's super full. And there seems to be so much wiggle room where I can just keep eating. So it's interesting. I think, I don't know if this is gonna be a long-term thing for me that I have to track calories, but maybe, because I think otherwise, if it's something really delicious like a steak, it's just gonna be kind of hard for me not to overeat. Anyway, that's just my wandering thoughts for the day. I'm so glad I filmed this clip. I mean, it's really nice to just kind of see the changes in my face. It's much less round and puffy here just a week later after that former clip that I was mentioning. But it's the first time that I'm pointing out feeling sort of deprived and wanting more food. If you see me looking down here, I'm looking at my computer because I've got some details that I want to get right. So the next day was November 8th, and that was the first day that I went over my calorie allotment, a notable amount, per my tracking app, which I used Chronometer. I just used the free version. I ate about 2,237 calories, and then the next day my weight was up a smidge. A couple days later, I remember feeling particularly hungry, and so I told myself, hey, I'm gonna have an entire steak for dinner. Now, I did choose one that wasn't gigantic on purpose, but I had this about 3/4 pound T-bone, and then I served it with a whole can of green beans. I usually do either frozen green beans or canned green beans once a day, and I do it with no added salt, so I can add my own Redmond real salt because it tastes really good and it has more minerals. But the point of the green beans is that it really helps me just feel fuller, so I don't have to eat basically double the meat to feel that same sense of satisfaction. Here's a quick explanation for how I know what to track. Oh my God. Here's a quick explanation of how I know exactly what to track when I have something like steak. So I first weigh my steak raw on my food scale. This is just a cheap one from Amazon. And then this was a T-bone, so there's a bone left over. And when it was raw, it was 14.5 ounces. So we'll see what's left of the bone and stuff that I didn't eat. And this is really hard to hold. It's about 2.4. So I'll go back and track that I ate 12.1, gosh, that was easy math, but I struggled. 12.1 ounces of T-bone. That's how I do it whenever I eat any kind of meat. I measure it raw, and then anything left over, if it's chicken or whatever, I just deduct the weight of the bones, the leftover parts that I didn't eat. But another fun fact that I wanted to share is that I ate all of that, 3/4 pound of steak and a whole entire can of green beans, and I'm definitely not stuffed. I could easily eat that same amount again, maybe twice over. So this is why tracking is really helpful for me, because just going until I'm full, easily I could eat 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 calories a day, which is fine if you're not gaining weight. I think I can probably get away with eating quite a few calories when I'm trying to maintain my weight, but when I'm trying to lose weight, it's a little trickier. So if you're struggling, you may have to track too. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's okay. For me, it's fine. I'm just dealing with it, but it's not necessarily something I want to do forever. Let me just mention here, I think it's really important, for me at least, to lose weight in the same way that I intend to maintain my weight loss. So, for example, tracking my food is not really something that I want to do forever. However, I'm trying to present this to you and have objective data to go by. And after this first month of doing it, by the end of this video especially, you'll see, I feel like that data is very useful. So for now, I'm going to keep tracking, even though it may not be something that I stick with forever. but I'll have to reevaluate really every month. And if at some point it seems like it's hindering my progress in some way, then I'll have to reconsider if it's worth it to me to continue weighing and tracking and doing all of that. Interestingly, the morning after my big steak dinner, my weight was down to 182.2, which is the lowest it's been in 5 months, specifically since June of 2023. By the way, here's my dinner from that night. It's a small piece of Carnivore lasagna that I made for both myself and my boyfriend to eat. So the noodles in that are made from egg life wraps. So the only ingredient in there that's not carnivore is the marinara sauce. You can see I served it with a giant serving of green beans so that I didn't eat as much of the calorie-dense lasagna. Let's take a little break so I can give you some details about calories in, calories out, all that good stuff for the first 2 weeks that I would consider myself pretty successful. What you see here is the calendar from my Apple Watch, so it shows a little bit with my workouts and stuff. I think it'll be just nice to have a point of reference to kind of see the weeks, how they're laid out. November 1st through 5th, my daily average calorie intake was 1,637 calories, and I burned an average of 476 calories per day, although that's a little artificially low because there was one whole day that I didn't wear my watch at all because I was a bridesmaid in my friend's wedding. My watch didn't look too good with my bridesmaid dress. Speaking of, here's a really beautiful photo of myself and my boyfriend at the wedding. But unfortunately, this will just never be my favorite photo of us because I don't feel like I look my best because of my weight. The week of November 6th through 12th, my daily caloric intake was 1,969 calories, and I burned an average of 772 calories per day. In general, I think that my calorie intake and the targets I was shooting for, I think that was pretty good for the first 2 weeks. However, probably my calories were a little low that first week, as evidenced by my increased appetite and difficulty sticking with it in week 2 and beyond. And also, looking back now, I'm wondering if I maybe wasn't eating enough protein. I figured out my average protein intake for that first week and it was 105 grams. For the second week, it was better at 130 grams, but I don't know, I might need a little bit more than that. Now here's where things started to take a turn for the worse. On November 13th and 14th, I went way over my calories, over 3,000 calories both days, and I was definitely eating non-carnivore foods. On the 13th, I had my boyfriend's stupid oatmeal peanut butter chocolate chip energy balls, and then the 14th, I had a straight up chocolate bar. Now, I wasn't completely off the rails yet. I wouldn't say I was even binging. I was just eating things I shouldn't eat. I was feeling very rebellious. I was making bad choices, but I was still tracking it. So that's one way I know that it wasn't anything crazy yet. The next day, November 15th, I could feel a full-on binge coming on. So I basically negotiated with myself and said, okay, you can eat as much as you want as long as it's carnivore food. So one example of something I ate that day was this plate of carnivore nachos, which is made of pork rinds, cheese, and bacon. It's extremely high calorie. I ate every bit of it. It wasn't a good choice at all. But I honestly felt a little bit proud of myself. Like, you recognized your urges and you gave in sort of, but you didn't eat sugar, and you know, like, I was sort of patting myself on the back for that. Unfortunately, the next 3 days were full-on binge. And by full-on, I mean, I don't even know what I was eating. I wasn't tracking. I was out of control, stuffing my face. What I remember eating was candy, just regular like Halloween candy and gift shop candy from work. So we have a candy drawer in my office, not my personal office, but the rehab department office. That's full of candy all the time. And for 1.5 years that I was carnivore, I didn't eat candy out of that thing once. And now it is literally one of my biggest temptations in life. It's ridiculous. Just changing my diet a little bit has led me back down this path of sneaking candy from the candy drawer, which I don't even have to sneak it. It's free candy. But anyway, I sneak it. And I also went to the gift shop and spent, I don't know, $10 on stupid candy and whatever. I don't even remember. I'm sure I also ate things outside of work, but I can't remember, which is really crazy because it wasn't even 2 weeks ago and it's like I've blocked it out. Suffice it to say that I definitely ate thousands and thousands of calories for those 3 days. By the end of that 3-day binge, I was just really brainstorming, what can I do to get back on track? And so November 19th was the first day that I felt kind of reasonably back in control. And what I did was have a really big breakfast and turn that day into a 2 meals a day. So I had breakfast before work. I did not allow myself to have anything at work where I knew I was gonna have so many temptations with candy from the gift shop and the candy drawer. And then I came home and had a reasonable dinner. And so that felt good. I felt like, you're kind of in the clear. The next day, November 20th, I weighed in and I weighed 186.6, which is exactly what I weighed when I first started this November 1st. It was obviously discouraging to me because I felt like I was making some progress and I basically undid it all. But a couple kind of good things that came out of it were feeling like I'm falling off the wagon and binging again, but being able to get myself back on track and sort of telling myself, you're no worse than when you started. We're starting again here. You can lose weight when you pay attention and you stick to your plan, but now you know you can't do that. No more candy. After that one good successful day and thinking about it a lot and actually talking about it with my coach, Jen Winkler, I decided that the 2-mad thing with a very big breakfast might be a good fit for me, at least for a while. So here's an example of a really big breakfast that I had. This day it was carnivore French toast, which is mostly made of pork rinds and mozzarella, and then fried in tallow with some egg. And then I had a total of 4 eggs, 3 slices of bacon, and I served it with a keto maple syrup, which has a bunch of carbs technically, but barely any net carbs. And I know I'm splitting hairs here. You can judge me if you want, but trust me, I'm judging myself. The point of this big breakfast was to keep me really full at work, and it did that. So I got home from work and had a reasonable dinner, and my macros looked pretty good for the day. Everything kind of was still feeling good. November 23rd was Thanksgiving. My boyfriend and I both worked. So after work, we went to Applebee's and I got this 2 burger patties with Swiss cheese and mushrooms. It was fine. I felt pretty good about that too. I never felt out of control. I never really felt like I was being restricted in any way. I would say it was just another good day in a string of good days. So the week of November 20th through 26th was really pretty good. My average daily calorie intake was about 1,900 calories and I burned 609 calories per day with my exercise and activities. And because now I'm curious, I went back and looked to see how much protein I was eating each day, and it was an average of 124 grams. On November 26th, I weighed in again at 182.2, which is that low that I just hit a week or so prior. So I was feeling really good. Like I messed up royally, but I'm back on track. Now, when I started this November 1st, I weighed 186.6, but the highest my weight has been in the last few months is 189, I think. So from 189 to 182, I was feeling pretty good. I lost 7 pounds so far in this first month. That's decent. I mean, in the past, I've lost like 20 pounds in a month, but I'm trying to do slow and steady here. Slow and steady wins the race. Now that was just a few days ago, but it's been a really rough few days. Yesterday morning, something happened, I don't even know what, and I was tempted to eat, I think it was those peanut butter balls again, the oatmeal peanut butter balls. I saw them in the fridge. My boyfriend eats them as a snack at work every day, so they're always around, and sometimes I make them for him. I need to figure out something to do with those because they do definitely seem to trigger me. And I had this internal dialogue with myself of, I really want to eat those balls. Okay, that sounds funny, but I really want to eat those oatmeal balls. But I know if I do, I'm gonna spend the day binging. And tomorrow I have to weigh in and film this video. And it was almost like that made it worse. It made me more wanna do it. It's weird, I don't know how to explain it. It's this rebellious thing. Like the worse the consequences are gonna be, sometimes the more I wanna do it. Now, I know, I'm broken, I'm messed up. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just trying to be honest because I know so many of you experience this too. So I'm still working on trying to get a handle on this, but I spent all day yesterday binging. I mean, I went to Starbucks 3 times. I had multiple drinks and treats from Starbucks. I had a bag of microwave popcorn. I had a box of Milk Duds. I think that was about it on top of my regular meals, but I mean, I definitely had thousands of calories yesterday. And I spent the day, I think before I even started binging, I was feeling really bummed looking at some old photos of myself. I'll show you here. These are all 3 to 4 years old, and I was weighing around 160 to 165, and I felt so good about how I looked in all these photos. And I just feel like it's almost an impossible thing to get back there. I don't know how. I've been trying. It's been so hard. Now, it wasn't easy for me to maintain my weight at that level then, but I was way closer than I am now. I mean, when I was gaining weight, I was probably closer to like 170 at that time, and not happy with that at all. Now, if I could get to 170, it would be like a miracle. But it's so depressing because here's the thing. I do love my body, and I love all the benefits that I've had from being a carnivore. And if I were on a deserted island with no one to see me, I think I would be like, this body is perfect. It's strong, it's capable. Who cares if I've got a few extra rolls or whatever? But in the real world, I do want to feel more beautiful. I want my clothes to fit better. I want to feel more comfortable in tighter clothes, or, you know, like, I understand this is all superficial, but I guess I'm superficial about my appearance. You know, I want to feel my best, and I don't feel my best at this level. I felt my best like in these photos. And also on top of that, you know, that was 4 years ago. So now I see all these different age-related changes, which those aren't going to get better. So it just, so frustrating sometimes. Now, if I wasn't filming this video, there's no way I would have weighed myself this morning. Weighing myself after a binge is never really a thing I do, but I did. And I weighed 188.6, which is 2 pounds heavier than when I started this on November 1st. So that's a kick in the butt. It's humiliating. And I guess on the one hand, I'm grateful that I promised to do these update videos, because it would be so easy for me to just give up at this point. Like, it's too hard. I'm just gonna keep messing up. You know what I mean? Like, all the negative self-talk. But this has really forced me to analyze all of this data and film this video anyway, and sort of see patterns and figure out my next best steps. So thank you for helping me to do that. After 1.5 years of strict carnivore, I truly thought that my 20-year history of binge eating was over. I thought I was cured. Turns out that that's not the case. It's just I wasn't eating the triggering foods anymore. It's basically like being an alcoholic and avoiding alcohol. And I think for me, that's what I have to do. I have to avoid the foods that are going to trigger me. I've tried moderation. I've tried allowing those kinds of things in small amounts, and it does not work for me. Now, I guess, you know, maybe someday it will, but right now it doesn't. So I think what I really need to do is figure out exactly what my sort of diet protocol needs to be, meaning these are the foods that are food to me. These are the foods I'm allowed to eat. Straying out of that in any way is out of the question. And doing that, that's why carnivore worked for me. There were certain foods I could eat. Everything else was not food to me. And I've shared a bunch of videos about that. You're welcome to go back and watch those. But it turns out that when I start adding things back, it muddies the water quite a bit. And then my old habits just come back like crazy. So I suppose one option would be to go back to 100% pure carnivore. I'm not ruling that out as an option, but I do fear that some of the issues I was experiencing, specifically with my sleep and having trouble with my weight, I think some of that would still be an issue. So I'm not quite ready to do that yet, but I definitely know it's a tool that I have if I need it. As I keep experimenting and sort of trying different things, if I can't come up with something that's gonna work, I'm going to have to reevaluate. So that's something that I will commit to doing. Continue to reevaluate and reassess and continue to work toward my ultimate goal. So that's how the month has gone. I do have a few reflections that I want to share with you. One is something that my boyfriend said. Now, he is an absolute moderator. He's not much of a sweets guy. He can have it sometimes. He can live with or without it, whatever. And one day we were having dinner, and this was on a good day for me, where I had a big breakfast and then I had like a regular dinner. But with my dinner, I had green beans and I had a serving of what I call kind of, I guess, carnivore jello. No, let's not call it carnivore jello. We'll call it electrolyte jello. It's made with an element packet and some beef gelatin and water. So it's like 30 calories. It's a big serving because it had 2 cups of water in it. And so it's very filling for me to have, let's say, that small little piece of Carnivore lasagna and then the whole thing of green beans and the whole bowl of Jell-O. And I said to him, I think this is a really good fit for me to be able to have this large amount of food, but have it be pretty low calorie. And I said, you know, I don't think there's really any nutrients in these green beans that I need, but I'm just using them to fill space. Now, there actually is a little bit of nutrient content in the Jell-O because of the gelatin and the electrolytes. And he said to me, why don't you just get used to eating less food? Wouldn't that be a better solution? And I just sort of kicked and screamed against that a little bit, because I think for him, that is an option. He can just say, okay, I'm gonna eat less food. But for me, it's like, I'm just not satisfied unless I'm eating a lot of food and feeling full. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but that is how I am. So to me, it seems like the better option, for now at least, is to allow myself to have more volume of food, but figure out what that food needs to be and ensure that it's reasonably healthy food. You know, I think green beans are fine, but like, I don't want to eat cups and cups of popcorn. That's not fine for me as far as insulin and cravings and all that. But I just thought that was really interesting, and I'm curious about your thoughts on that. Is he right? Is that a one size fits all for everyone? Just get used to eating less food? I don't think so, but I can see where he's coming from. Now, there are a couple of positive things that I can report. One is that every single day for this last month, I have exercised at least for 30 minutes. That was what I committed to myself. Now, many days that was just walking. I bet 5 days a week that was just walking. But still, in the past when I would binge, forget it, I'm not exercising. So it's like a double whammy of all the extra calories I'm taking in and not hardly burning any. So that's one thing that I feel good about. And then my sleep really is better. I'll share with you a little bit of a snapshot of my sleep for the last 30 days, but I'm falling asleep pretty quickly. This app says I'm falling asleep within 12 minutes. I use a sleep app through my Oura Ring, which is awesome. I love this thing. And so yeah, I'm falling asleep within 12 minutes. And this last 30 days, I slept a total of 7 hours and 23 minutes a night, which is way better. I was sleeping 5-6 hours a night for a long time there at the end of my strict carnivore phase. And I don't think that was working for me. Now, getting into some personal stuff, my hormonal cycle, menstrual stuff seems to be better too. Specifically, my luteal phase has lengthened a little bit, which is definitely a positive sign for fertility, which is important to me because I still want to have a baby. And some other fertility signs have improved as well. So that's just something that I'm keeping an eye on, but that does seem to be better since I've been adding in a little bit of carbs specifically. Of course, the things that are worse, my weight is now higher than when I started this, and the binge eating is really out of control again. So I've got to figure that out. So I'm trying to come up with a plan, like what do I try next to have some success? And I want to, again, get this right of what I've brainstormed. So I'm going to be reading a little bit of it from my computer. But the first thing I'm trying to do is really define what I'm considering part of my protocol when it comes to food, okay? So for me, what that means is carnivore, meat, eggs, dairy, plus coffee and tea, some low-carb veggies like green beans, and maybe at times like onions, mushrooms, tomato sauce. I mean, I'm allowing myself a little bit of wiggle room there. And then chewing gum. Maybe that's not a good choice, but for now I'm trying it, right? I have to know what I'm allowing now so I know what I need to change in the future. Flavored electrolytes, if I didn't already say that. And then occasional ketovore dinners. So whether I'm making it at home for my boyfriend and I, or if we go out, something that maybe isn't completely carnivore, but it's not like sweet dessert, anything like that, but kind of more what would be considered ketovore. And that's it as far as what I'm going to allow food-wise. So things that I had this month that I'm not going to allow myself, like no exceptions when it comes to like the treats from Starbucks or the organic candy bars or the organic chocolate bars that I sneak in from time to time, or my husband, hopefully someday, my boyfriend's oatmeal balls or, well, clearly candy, but it never starts with candy, right? It starts with, oh, this organic chocolate bar or these oatmeal balls that are made with all whole food ingredients. I mean, it starts with that and then it leads to M&Ms or Milk Duds. So I've got to avoid the initial gateway foods, which actually one of them, big time, is ribs. I can trace back a lot of my binges to having ribs like a day before. So I don't want to just give them up completely. I love them so much, but I do need to have a plan around it. So this is a work in progress. I'm still working on it. A couple other things that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shoot for 100 ounces of water per day. I definitely think I've been under drinking lately, specifically because I've been having a lot of coffee, which is kind of a treat. And I usually just have it, well, I always just have it with cream unless I'm binging and I'm getting something like a freaking, I don't know, pumpkin spice latte or whatever at Starbucks, but generally it's not sweet. But that's displacing my water if I have 2 or 3 coffees a day. So I'm gonna force myself basically to measure out about 100 ounces of water a day. That's a little less than a gallon, and see if that helps a little bit with my cravings. And I'm gonna try to do 2 MAD most days with a medium to large breakfast and then a reasonably sized dinner. I really think that might be a helpful tool for me. So I'm gonna keep exploring that and then report back as I tweak that. I'm gonna continue to exercise every single day, at least 30 minutes, but I want that to start shifting to more actual workouts besides just walking. And so what I'm gonna do for that is as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna switch into my gym clothes. One of the problems that I have sometimes is I wake up at like 5 and then I just sort of lounge around in my jammies on the couch for 2 hours. And so then I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to the gym. I'll just go for a walk. And that's better than nothing, but that's not my goal. So I'm gonna change right away. And I've set up some things on my phone so that social media apps and stuff are off from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I'm less likely to get on those and get my workout done first. I'm going to try to increase my NEAT. Maybe you've heard of that. It's non-exercise activity time, N-E-A-T. And so I'm gonna go out of my way to burn more calories just with daily activity. For me, the best way to do that is to take the stairs at work. My hospital it has 8 flights of stairs, or no, well, okay, it has 8 floors, 16 flights of stairs, I guess, because there's 2 flights between each floor. Anyway, I usually take the elevator lately because I'm lazy, but I'm gonna start making myself take the stairs and just do things like that to burn a little bit of extra calories here and there. I'm also gonna start being a little bit more mindful of where I am in my cycle and purposely increasing calorie intake on those days. So working with my coach, Jen Winkler, she's helped me to see that around the time of ovulation and the few days before my period, that seems to be when I'm doing a lot of my binging. And during that time, I maybe need a little bit more calories. So I'm gonna try to prepare for that and eat a little bit extra of healthy foods. So I'm not getting to the point where I'm a little behind and I'm kind of hangry-ish and more likely to give in to urges. I'm committing to tracking all of my food no matter what. Even if I go on the binge of all binges, I'm gonna track that son of a gun and see what, to hold myself accountable to what exactly I'm doing, but to also be able to look back and be like, I ate 8,000 calories and this much fat, whatever. I don't know. I think that the information could be useful. It also will be a bit of a roadblock to where I'll be less likely to binge, I think. So that's another thing I'm committing to. I'm also going to start rereading a book that I've found very, very helpful in the past called Brain Over Binge, which is all about recognizing urges and practicing not giving in to them until it's no longer a habit to binge eat. So I just restarted that this morning, getting ready for this video with my hair and makeup and whatever. I was listening to it and it's just really good. It's really motivating. It helps you to sort of dissociate from there's a problem with me, I'm broken, I have something I need to work through. It helps you get away from that and more into I'm having urges and then I binge. If I don't give in to urges, I don't binge. It's just a very practical way of looking at it. And that worked really, really well for me as a carnivore. Now I need to employ that as in almost carnivore, adding a few other foods in. A couple more things. One, I'm gonna try to purposely increase my protein intake. So let's say I'm gonna have this particular breakfast, I'm gonna go out of my way to add a little bit of chicken to it or something like that to see if that helps by increasing protein. I don't know if it will. It's just, this is sort of an experiment. And then the last thing I'm gonna go out of my way to do is film a little bit more footage in real time, especially when it comes to urges and binging, because the few little clips in this video that I had the opportunity to look back on with you, I think were really helpful, almost like a journal. And so I wanna try to do that a little bit more this month and see if that can be useful to me and to you. So what's keeping me accountable? A few things. I mentioned before, it's my 40th birthday on May 1st. So that's 6 months after I started this, basically 5 months from now. So that's one thing. I also booked, it's called a boudoir photo shoot, which I've done before, and it was the most fun experience. I want to do it again for my 40th. So that's something that, you know, I really want to look my best and feel my best for that. And then this video series, truly, I mean, having to do this is both the most embarrassing and the most helpful thing that I could ever imagine in this situation. So thank you so much for helping hold me accountable. And, you know, I think it'll be useful for me too to be able to look back on this. I think you and I can learn maybe more from the failures than from the successes. So I'm really grateful to have that, you know, to have this sort of video journal, though I am aware that at some point it can't be, oh, I have all these positive thoughts about all the things I'm learning, even though I'm not having success. Like, it has to change from that to actually having success. So I'm working on it, okay? I promise. If you have any advice for me, I would love to hear it. Or if you feel like you're having a similar struggle or you're learning something from this that's helpful, I'd love to hear that too. So let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will be back soon to let you know how the second month has gone. In the meantime, I'll have a few other videos out that are not related to this necessarily, but hopefully we'll be able to see me shrinking over the time, even when I'm not exactly talking about this. Thank you so much for watching. You're my favorite. I can't wait to see you next time. If you want, we can connect on Instagram. I'm not posting on there a ton these days, but I'm very responsive to DMs. So if you have anything you want to discuss further, you can leave a comment or you can message me over there. I hope you have a lovely day, a beautiful December, and we'll talk soon.